All right, guys, we're back for another week of Talking Preps. We're heading into week 4, Chris. Is that right?
Yeah, week 4.
Week four. So we kind of making some progress, and we got a lot to talk about. We got Darryl Brown on the show. We got a special guest from South Meco at a big game show. A lot of fun coming up. A little Charlotte talk. Let Cam talk about his alma mater right after this. All right, Chris, you shared this in our Talking Preps chat, which sometimes is better than the show itself. In Portland, they're not having bands at games due to pay disputes with band directors. That sounds a little similar to what's going on in North Carolina with football coaches' pay, but the coaches haven't decided not to show up. But what do you think about that?
You know, that came across my social feed, and I shared that with the group because I was like, man, this really resonates with our current slate of events. And you know what? Kudos to the band directors for getting together and making a stand and doing that. You know, we all know that high school football, and I don't just mean the coaches and the X's and O's and all that between the field, but the event of high school football is an enormous economic driver for the school in general that supports the academics, all the other sports and stuff. And that Friday night experience, bands are absolutely a huge part of that. And for them band directors to come together and decide to boycott the season in an effort to get paid the money that they deserve, you know what? Kudos to them. You know, we got our shirts, pay the coaches. Well, you know what? Pay them band directors too, because they have a huge part with the games, and they're a big part of making money for those teams.
Dale.
Well, you know, Chris, I don't know if people realize this, but this is about the bands, is those guys put in a ton of time because they're going to events, they're competing. They're not just coming out on Friday nights and, you know, playing in the stands and maybe marching out at halftime and, you know, playing the Star Spangled Banner. Those guys, every Saturday, they're going to competitions, etc. So those band directors put in, I'm not going to say they put in as much time as our coaches do, but they put in a lot of time. And they kind of hopefully have set an example that you've got to pay people that are working with our kids and doing these things, because I don't know, I could go on about that, but plain and simple, they put in extra time for the kids just like our coaches do. And you know, coaches have got to at some point make a stance here. In North Carolina, it's really bad. It's not as bad in some other states like South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, but you know, here the coaches don't really get that extra compensation.
Well, two things I'd like to add to that is, one, I teach driver's ed every afternoon at Hopewell High School. And when I leave after 5 o'clock, the band is still practicing. So they are doing the same amount of hours that the football coaches are doing.
Right.
I don't know what band directors get paid. Is it supplemental pay like coaches pay? I'm not sure that. That's not something that I ever thought about. Second thing is, you know, with all the federal Department of Education cuts, school systems all over the country have had to redivert funds that they previously were getting from the federal government. Now they have to pull those funds to keep some of these programs alive. They have to pull this funding that they used to get from the federal government. They have to find other places to get them out of the state budget or out of the local budget. And so, you know, as much as these things need to happen, you know, on a individual basis of paying coaches and band directors, it's hard to figure out where the money's going to come from, because these school systems are trying to keep academic programs alive that have been cut by the federal government.
Yeah. Can't put a bonus for us.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I went to Northwest Cabarrus from 2014 to 2018, and before Northwest got somewhat decent at football again. And I know back, at least when I was in high school, the Northwest band was huge. I mean, had tons of members in their band. And a lot of people would come out to games on Friday night just to hear the band because it was really good. They won several competitions. But they put in work, and so a lot of these schools that maybe don't have the best football teams, your best bet is that a lot of them are going to have good bands, and so these band directors, they deserve. I mean, they deserve to get some kind of pay boost, whether it be, it's certain incentive pay, but I mean they're doing just as much work as far as with the kids as the coaches, like it's been mentioned, and they're just truly underappreciated.
Yeah, you mentioned working at Hopewell.
Another thing is those band members also include the letter girls, the flag people, and all of that. And just say they each got 2 or 1 parent coming to the game.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a reason to come. So that that affects, you're talking about knocking $1,000, $2,000 off the gate.
Yeah,
just
good point.
because the band is not playing.
Good point.
Yep.
Well, we'll see if that's happening in Portland, and we're a copycat society, so we'll see what happens. Gary, you teach at Hopewell, as you mentioned. Hopewell's football team, they've been competitive under Coach Brandon Sneed. Have they turned a corner? They had Statesville, which was ranked in Chris Hughes' Sweet 16, the Charlotte Observer Sweet 16 poll. They had them. They had tied the game with 5 minutes to go.
I think they have. They have a very experienced staff. Not only Brandon Sneed, who comes from a state championship program. He was on the staff at Vance when they were winning state championships, and came from Mallard Creek, which is a high-level program. And then his coordinators come from good programs. Anthony Hackett was the defensive coordinator on those state championship programs at Vance. And then the offensive coordinator, Nick Entis, he was the play caller on those good teams that Jupiter Wilson had over at Hickory Ridge. So he's building out a good staff, and they're in the games. They haven't won them yet, but they're in them. And in order to win them, you got to be in them.
That's correct.
And right now they're in them. Now they got to learn how to win them.
But Chris, they're also not playing in the conference. I'll come to you, Dale. But Chris, they're also not playing in that conference with all those heavyweights. So will that belief start to carry over as well?
Yeah, I think that they've got a chance to continue to be competitive, and to echo what Gary said, Coach Brandon Sneed, he's an up and comer in my opinion, and he's coached for some great guys. He's coached with Griner, he's coached with Hales, with Shuford, with Coach Coach Newsom. He's been around the block, and I think he brings some good things. In fact, I remember when he played in the Olympic for Coach Gilchrist back in the day. So I think he brings some good acumen with him. That conference, I think, has some teams that he can compete with. I think they're in there with South Meck. I think they've got West Meck. That's a league that I think Hopewell is going to be in some games.
Dale?
I was just going to say, Sneed, I've known him since he played at Olympic, and he my son was an offensive lineman, and we never had offensive line coaches at Olympic. We had people that attempted, and Sneed, my son's first year, Sneed is his best teaching is of the offensive line. I think he's got a good offensive mind. He was coaching over at Waddell, and when Coach, what was his name?
Benny,
math teacher.
Benny McMurray.
No.
After
TV, Dale's
Hines. Coach Hines. I'm sorry. So when Coach Hines left, Sneed didn't know what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was the right thing or the wrong thing, but I introduced him to Shuford. And I think he learned a lot there. And watching Sneed, he went with Shuford over to East Mecklenburg, and as was mentioned, he coached with Coach Hales at Butler, and he coached up at Kannapolis with Coach Newsom. The guy loves the game, knows the game. He still, I think, can relate with the kids. He's not an exceptionally old guy, so. I think there's some opportunity there for him. I think he's had a lot of good coaches to learn from. Yeah. And I think it's great to see that Hopewell, maybe Hopewell will be able to put some W's on and maybe look like they did back in the early 2000s.
What I'm seeing in Charlotte is there's definitely, tiers, but there's parity more than you've seen in recent years. Garringer's competitive. Last year, I think Garrett scored 1 touchdown. They scored like 9 this year. East Meck has won. Harding's been somewhat competitive. Hopewell's winning. And Snead just really struck me. Cam and I with the media day up at, where we at, Cam? At Huff, at media day.
Yeah.
And the guy just has so much energy. I was like, man, he has a lot of energy and a lot of enthusiasm. And I think that stuff can kind of get lost when you start getting smacked. But I think because of the conference being the way it is, I think they'll have a chance to be in games and not lose 61-6 or something like that. That kind of demoralizes a program.
And Langston, you talk about the school atmosphere. You know, they're not cracking jokes about the football team anymore.
And that's part of it. You know?
They're not teasing those kids in class about how bad they are.
Yes.
And now you're developing a football program that goes with the best band in CMS, which is
Hopewell. Sam might argue that point later on. Cam, want to come to you. Myers Park 4-6 last year. That same media day at Huff, Coach Chris James was saying we were embarrassed going 4-6 last year. They come out, they beat Weddington on the road. Weddington had lost at home in forever and a day. And they're 3-0 right now, and they're beating people pretty convincingly. They beat Providence 45-7 on Friday.
Yeah, I mean, look, to the naked eye, I think this is a surprise because you look at a team's record from a season ago. But sometimes that's a good kick in the rear end. I mean, to have an embarrassing season like that, and Coach Chris James, he's really got them rounded into shape. And I mean, we've known Myers Park to be really good in the recent history, so. To me, is it a surprise? No, because I mean, I thought they could have been good last year. I thought the team just kind of maybe in the locker room got a little bit divided after some tough losses, and so that topple down effect happened. But look, the best way to get over a bad season is to start off a new one the right way, and they've done that, and I think they can keep it rolling.
Yeah, Dale, resident historian, you've seen Myers Park up. You've seen Myers Park a lot down. What do you think about the Mustangs so far this year?
So there should be no surprise at all. Myers Park is probably has the most potential of any school in CMS. They have all the resources. They have a large student body, one of the largest schools in the state. Mm-hmm. Large student body means you've got enough kids to field a team. You probably have got enough kids to be able to find talent. And that's always been the case. That's never been an issue at Myers Park. It was said that, or rumored that Coach Knotts had said if there was one program that you could really do something with, it was Myers Park. So
not a rumor. That's a fact. Not a rumor. That's a fact.
Right. So, I mean, so it's not a surprise. And then we got to step back and look and see what has happened to Myers Park in the last few years. And I see that comment about 0 championships. That's right. It takes the right mixture to be able to bring a championship to bear. You got to have the players. You got to have the resources. And you got to have the coaching. And no matter what some coaches will say, that they can do it with, the Jimmies and Joes do it. You still have to have the coaching. Yeah. And if you look at that upper level of administration, of the administration and the coaches and what's happened in the last few years, I mean, we had I think a catastrophe with the program when with the ethical issues that occurred. Yeah. They should have given the job to Coach Harmon. He took them to their best season. They did not. And, I think just everything kind of crumbled for them, kind of like the whole foundation went out from under. They didn't.
I like the guy they have now, though. I like Coach James. I think he can.
It seems like, kind of like Dale is saying, this is the first time they've been in alignment in a long time. And when you say alignment, you're talking about from the principal down to the head, down to the AD.
Principal folk is amazing over there.
Yeah, to the parents. If you have them all in alignment, great things can happen for any program if they're all in alignment. But, like Dale said, they were changing coaches. Mm-hmm. They've been changing principals. I don't know if I think they may have even had an AD change during that time period. I'm not sure. Yeah. But, if you're not in alignment and you have people going in different directions, the resources and the numbers don't matter. And I think finally Myers Park is in alignment, and that's why you're seeing the results on the football field.
Chris, I see you ready to launch, but before you launch, I did want to ask you, can they compete for a state championship?
Yeah, I think they can. I think they're showing it. And to kind of go back to kind of what some of you guys were talking about, I contend that had we not had everything that happened in the 2020 season with the COVID, moving to the spring shortened COVID season. Myers Park was the bona fide favorite to win the Big 4A that year, or the 4A that year. You think about that staff. We've talked about Coach Joe Evans, Mark Carmen. They were all on that staff. That was an incredible staff that Scott Chadwick had. He had been there for 6 years and finally given that school a lot of continuity. And oh, by the way, you had Drake May, who I think is one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen. And had they played that fall season of 2020, I'd absolutely think Myers Park may be hanging a banner in the gym right now. But, we know what happened. The COVID moved the season to the spring. Drake May went to Carolina early. They still went 10-1 during the spring, and Harmon was still showing the door, maybe 9-1. But now, finally, after a lot of ups and downs, I think they finally got some continuity back in there with Coach James. I'm very impressed with what I've seen with him. And not just in him, but you're right about the principal, the school. I go there for basketball games. They've got a great setup and a lot of the good things going on in that school.
Yeah, absolutely. They really turned the corner. Very impressed with Chris James. I think he's the kind of guy they need. He's building a good staff. It doesn't hurt to have a lot of talented guys on the roster and some pros you can go to for some advice. But you mentioned Drake May. Sam believes in his heart that Drake May is the best quarterback to ever come through Charlotte. That's why I laughed. He's always said that.
Second,
behind Chris Leak. Well, Chris Leak would be my number one, but
no, they're all behind Mike Epley. But
here we go. Chris Leak's the best high school football player to ever play in Charlotte. The man was National Player of the Year 3 times. You just can't argue that. All right, Cam, I know you've been waiting. Here we go. Charlotte hosted UNC Saturday. What steps should new coach Tim Albin take to lock up the local talent that so often leaves here?
Just get in the high schools. You've got to get into the high schools. You got to build those relationships. Something that I'll be the first to say, some of the prior staffs did not do the best job at. But I think it's twofold, and I know a lot of the guys in this chat think more along the lines of the high school coaches inside with them, and that's their right. I would expect anything different. But high school coaches also have to understand, this is a Division I program that's trying to build a program, and you're not going to just throw some kids that are under-recruited on Charlotte and say, well, they're in the backyard, just go to Charlotte and play there. That's not what any program that's trying to build a team would do. But what I would say is if you can build those relationships early, start building relationships with the kids, if they do go off to an NC State, Duke, Chapel Hill, and they don't make it there, call it a fallback option if you will, but if they hit the transfer portal, you've already got that established relationship. So if Albin and his staff are doing that, kudos to them. I would encourage you to keep doing that. Like I said, it's something that the prior coaches did not do the best job of, especially Will Healy. I've heard a lot of horror stories about him going off to other states more often than in his backyard. So I think it's just a twofold situation that coaches can't be over expecting the Niners to recruit kids with no stars, kids with no numbers, but at the same time, the 49ers have to be realistic with their expectations. They're not going to get a phase.
All right, the good thing about this show is we have 2 state championship coaches in the back, and we're going to change coach versus coach, Chris. We're going to put in a Charlotte question of coach versus coach for those coaches to address Charlotte. And we also have another coach who's dealt with Charlotte. Gary, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Well, as Cam said in our chat, we were debating some things about Charlotte. And, I don't know about this staff, but I have had dealings with previous staffs, especially in basketball. And, those previous staffs didn't do a good job with the high school coaches. And that's from my experience. They wanted me to sell the players on their program. And that's not my job. My job is to tell the coach, hey, I have a player that can play at your level. Now, not all high school coaches do that. Some of them are just trying to throw scholarships or get kids scholarships that are not worthy of playing at the D1 level. Maybe they're FCS or they're D2. And Charlotte has been treated that way before. But to me, it's incumbent upon the college coach to build relationships with every school in Charlotte, whether they have players or not, because at some point they will have players.
Yeah.
And if you've already built that relationship, now it's easier to get your foot in the door. But if you only go to a high school when they have a talented kid that you want, and you don't bother with that high school any other time, that high school coach, he's going to shun you when he has an opportunity to direct their players to some other schools. So it works both ways. Langston, there have been times when we've had coaches, at least on the basketball side, say, hey, don't list us as one of your schools because if that kid doesn't pick Charlotte, we don't want people to know that we got rejected by a local kid. Yeah. So it works both ways.
Yeah, Chris, you made hold on, Dale. Chris, you made a point in the chat about Gunnar Brewer. Do you think a player like a guy like that can help Charlotte's recruiting fortunes?
Without a doubt. I mean, I think Gunnar Brewer is probably one of the best recruiting college football coaches that have recruited this North Carolina and specifically this Charlotte area. Really, in my lifetime, or at least my professional time of working high school football in this state for the last 20 years. I mean, his resume and the guys that he has landed at Carolina and also at some of the other schools that he's coached at, Virginia Tech and Maryland, has been pretty impeccable.
Yeah. All right, Dale, put a button on this for us.
Yeah, so that's a great point, Chris. What I was going to say is kind of follow up on Gary's point that a lot of times the coaches that maybe if they don't have a player, but if you're going in, to keep the relationship going with that coach, he may tell you about a player at another school. I'm aware of several times that has happened. They'll say, look, you're needing a running back. I don't have a running back, but there's a kid over here at school X you should go take a look at. If I were recruiting, I would sign it. Yeah. So there's a lot of good to building those relationships that takes us further.
Interesting discussion. I'll be very curious to hear what our state championship coaches have to say on coach versus coach. We're going to take a break right here. Then we're going to talk about some games coming up later. Wait, Chris, I can't talk about games coming up before we talk about players of the week. So let me give it to you to do players of the week, and then we'll talk about games coming up. We'll be back right after this. Every week on Thursday and Saturday morning, get the latest in high school news from around the region in the Charlotte Observer's free newsletter, Talking Preps, the newsletter. Make sure you sign up now.
All right, guys, here we are going into week 4 of the 2025 season. But before we get to week 4, let's see who got the call from last week's Talking Preps top performers. We're going to start up there in Lake Norman, Mooresville. Quarterback Caden Kraft in a 56-16 victory over West Cabarrus. Kraft completed 12 of 18 passes for 215 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also ran 4 times for 71 yards and another score. Lake Norman's 3-0. They play Independence. Coach Oliphant's going to have his handful. But guys, looking at Caden Kraft, he's a good one. What do you think, Coach Griner?
Yeah, the one thing I like is when he was throwing the ball, especially on the deep ball, sometimes it wasn't thrown with like a ton of the trajectory was very high. So he knew when to use the trajectory instead of throwing the ball on the rope. He gave his best opportunity for his wide receiver to make plays. Good decision maker. Looks like he's got a lively arm and he's able to make every throw. So it's a pretty cool deal to see. Coach Hells, what you think?
Yeah, I was fortunate last year during my little hiatus where I got the chance to see this kid call 2 games that he played. And really reminds me of a lot of a kid we had back in 2016, 2015 by the name of Davis Cheek, who went on to have a great career at Elon. But, the kind of kid, he's a real polished passer and he's a surprising athlete. He's not like flashy like Michael Vick where he's just zooming all over the field, but he's just so efficient when he picks his spots and smoothing up for you look up, he's 10, 15, 20 yards down the field with not a lot of effort, but again, the big thing there is just, he likes to throw in rhythm, throws a great catchable ball, and, just a very good athlete.
Yeah, that kid has probably made coach up at Lake Norman change his offensive philosophy a little bit. Because usually when you think about Lake Norman, you think about ball control, running game. But he's taking advantage of this kid's skills to the betterment of the Lake Norman program. Now not only do you have to defend their running game, but you have to really look out for their passing game.
How about that little slide he did right there at the end? I bet you that was towards the end of the game and realized he wanted to keep the clock going. I mean, that was a high-level play. I mean, I would like to know what part of the game that was in, if they were up and he got the first down, but he wanted to let the clock run because he could have easily walked out of bounds but slid. That's high-level IQ as a high school quarterback.
Absolutely. Let's move up to Raleigh, to Wake County. Broughton High School, Xavier Howard, and their 55-39 victory over Sanderson. Howard ran the ball 20 times for 152 yards and 5 touchdowns, averaged nearly 8 yards per carry. Gary, tell me about this guy.
Yeah, looks like he started from a wing position, getting a lot of plays going laterally. He's planting that foot and he's going. He's getting upfield. That's always been my critique of running out of the shotgun, is players are always starting out sideways, but it seems to benefit him well.
Coach Hales.
Yeah, one thing to me that jumps out is just his patience. They're using a lot of gap scheme type stuff, but even still, he's not beating his blockers to the hole. He's kind of letting things develop in front of him. And then, to what you're saying, Gary, once he sees that spot, now he's planting his foot and getting gone. But, the ability to just be patient, use your blockers, I think that's probably one of the hardest skills for young running backs to pick up. Usually, especially you get these kids coming from middle school and everything to them is like hash number sideline and we'll see you in the end zone. But for him to be able to set his blocks up and use them like that, I mean, that's some advanced stuff right there.
Well, yeah, I love the old buck sweep. I mean, you're seeing a lot of buck sweeps like you're seeing from the wing and split back, different scenarios, but nothing like a good old buck sweep, pulling both guards. But one thing I really like about this guy is, Hales, it says a lot of times in the gap scheme, you hit the hole fast, but he has patience to let his block set up. But when it's time for contact, when it's time to turn the corner, especially on this buck sweep, he gets his shoulders square and he's a lot to bring down. You can tell he can make yards after contact and very explosive back. But I love seeing shoulders get square right when it's the right time and make someone feel your weight.
All right, Coach Hales, I'm going to come to you first with this one here. Stand up here in the Triangle area, Johnston County. Junior quarterback Owen Holbert over there at Cleveland High School in their 52-28 victory over Northern Nash. He completed 20 of 26 passes for 236 yards, 4 touchdowns. That's against a major top-tier opponent. They were number 1 in the state last week, Northern Nash. Coach Hales, you coached a lot of good quarterbacks. What do you see in this guy?
I see grasp of the offense is first and foremost. Again, when you look at those numbers, completion percentage, it just, looks like it's probably higher than 70%. But, it's not a lot of like, let me look around and, find another spot to throw from and find a different spot to, throw from. He's getting his drop, he's making his read, and he's just confidently delivering the ball where it needs to go. Like even here, when you see him pulling it down, like that's a grasp of the offense to understand covered, I'm out. Not cover, let me run around for a while and see if something can happen. And again, I think that says so much about, efficiency and being a great offense. And that's, you love seeing a kid play and complete a high percentage like that.
What do you think, Gary?
Well, like Coach Hales said, efficiency. And what I'm looking at is his footwork. One of the things that has gotten lost in spread offenses is quarterbacks using the proper footwork, because they're already in the pocket, so to speak. Quarterbacks that play on the center, their drop times up with the receiver's route, whether it's a 3-step, 5-step, 7-step. And what I'm noticing is his drop out of the shotgun. A lot of kids just catch the ball, turn and throw. And he's actually still doing the 3-step drop and throwing the ball on rhythm. So you don't see that a lot anymore because kids play so much 7-on-7 out of the gun that they just catch and throw. And he's taking a drop out of the gun, which I like.
I mean, like Gary's saying, it's really cool to see he has a great understanding, like Hale said as well, the offense, because you'll see a rocker step. So a rocker step is not he's taking a 3-step drop, but he's throwing like a hitch or something very fast, maybe an RPO, any of those things, and is hitting on a slant. Then when you're seeing him throwing a corner route or a deep curl, you see the 3-step drop from the gun, which equivalates to like a 5-step drop. Very in rhythm. You can tell he gets a lot of reps, understanding the offense. And then you see the aspect of the dive option with the swing pattern. So that's really just new school option in the way that like he has the dive. If he pulls it, he can pull it off the edge at the linebacker triggers. He has the the bubble screen outside, and so it's pretty cool to see he has a great understanding of the offense, and his footwork is phenomenal.
Well, I think
right,
too,
let's go on over to Union County, Forest Hills High School.
Hale's had a comment.
Oh, you have a comment?
I think the one thing Gary was saying, he made the comment about 7-on-7, where that's one of the things that you see as quarterback coaches that have to fix the most amount of things, because there is no penalty in 7-on-7 for not taking a good drop. You just stand there and, things are going to happen. Now, you put the pads on, you get D linemen, linebackers coming after you. There's definitely a penalty if you don't take a good drop and you're not in rhythm, and that's where you're getting smacked. And that's where, they kudos to their coaches, too, because they're able to take that, either not allow them to fall into those bad 7-on-7 habits or get them corrected as soon as he gets back to them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Hey, my bad for jumping the gun. Let's go over here to Union County, Forest Hills High School. Kylan Polk in their 36-25 victory over the Community School of Davidson. Polk ran the ball 30 times for a school record 379 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also had a 54-yard kick return for a touchdown. Coach Griner, what do you think about a guy like that?
A true workhorse. Call him the ice bath guy, and he probably didn't spend too much time going out with his friends over the weekend. He just stayed in a cold shower, ice bath, and then having someone bringing him some snacks or something, because 32 carries, 300 plus yards, that's an unbelievable night. Definitely needed to be on one of our top players for sure.
Coach Hales.
Yeah, man, I love seeing kids have nights like this because they just don't happen very often. I remember in high school, I had a friend who had a night like this where, like 25 touches ends up with almost 400 yards. But it's amazing, for a kid to be able to do that. And, you see like a lot of the second effort stuff you get out of him. He's breaking a lot of tackles or, running through a lot of arm tackles and things like that as well. But, he's just seen a ton of determination with the kid carrying the ball, not going down easy and picking up an extra 5, 10, 15 yards after contact.
Hey, Gary.
He might not be fresh after the game, but you know who is? That defense. Because they're just sitting over there watching him run, and they're saying, keep going, keep going. And that's a lot of time off the clock, a lot of possession. So when his defense gets back on the field, they're fresh. Because he's chewing up clock for them and time of possession. So it's not something you see a whole lot. I imagine, and you can ask Brian and Sam this, they haven't run the ball 32 times in a game all season with all of their runners.
Don't test me on that one, because
I'm running the rock, you know that.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Hey, question: was that against Community School of Davidson, or was that for Community School?
For Forest Hills against Community School of Davidson.
Boy, you talking about Coach Albert being upset with that guy running the ball. Like, that guy loves to throw the ball, because I was like, either this two things, like this guy went totally against what he's always done in the past, because that guy will throw it 70 times a game, or he was very frustrated he couldn't throw the ball a whole lot because that guy was running the ball all night long.
Yeah, no, but Kylan Polk, he went to Forest Hills. He ran that 379 against Coach Albert's Community School of Davidson. But anyway, hey, guys, we got one more to do right here. We're going to bring a guy here in the studio, Carter Gillis, my man from South Mac, and their 51-22 victory over Ballantyne Ridge. Gillis was 12 of 14, for 334 yards, 6 touchdowns. South Meck, which has not had a winning season since going 9-3 in 2021, is now 2-1. They've won 2 straight games. Carter, welcome here to Talking Preps. You balled, you got the call.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, my man. Hey, tell us about that game.
Man, just doing the right thing every time for me, honestly. Just when I got my opportunities to take shots, take those. But overall, it was just about getting the ball out quick to my guys on the outside, the playmakers, and letting them do their thing. Didn't force it anywhere and just tried to make the right read every single time.
The baby face assassin. Look at this guy right here. The girlfriends are all up in the Facebook, Instagram DMs. It was crazy after this game, I bet. So, question for you. Do you have a favorite receiver?
Favorite receiver? I'm going to go with the open one. The open one.
The open one. That's right, baby.
I love that answer.
Carter, you talked about making the right read. Do y'all run a lot of RPOs, or are you able to change the play if you see something, a coverage? Can you change the play?
Yes, sir. Both RPOs and pass plays. We do run a lot of RPOs in our offense, so I have the opportunity to make a quick pull and get it out there to the outside. But even on pass plays, just going through my progressions and seeing the open guy and hitting him right now and letting him go to work.
Carter, I see those numbers. I see 12 of 14. Like, how did you feel like pre-snap on most of those plays? Like, did you get a look pre-snap and be like, I got this. Like, I know exactly where I'm going with the ball. Like, was it like, did your preparation lead to that, or did you just kind of have a night?
I think preparation definitely played a big role in it. For sure. Watching film before the game, the night before, looking over stuff, I was seeing stuff. If he's lined up like this, I'm immediately going to that. And then game night, just going to it and giving him the ball and not hesitating, really.
I want to hear your favorite play call right now.
Favorite play call?
Yep.
Probably just got to go with we run it a lot, just a rollout Florida concept.
Okay. Good deal. All right, last question. Your head coach, he's an ugly-looking fella. We all know that. And I want to know the greatest story or one of his favorite sayings, like something you can say on TV, basically.
Oh, man. Greatest story. It'll probably have to be all the freshmen when they come in for the first time, when they get a look at him. The look on their face is always funny because they're not really expecting a guy like that. So definitely just seeing the reaction of the freshmen when they come in is always hilarious.
Good deal. All right, last question. I got good ones for this one. So just one more question. If your head coach had to play for your team right now, what position would he have to play? What position would he play?
I know he was a receiver back in the day, but
ain't no chance for that now.
Yeah, I don't know if we use him at receiver. Maybe throw him at a little like H-back, maybe running back.
You've got to put his hand in the dirt. Like, let's just put his hand in the
dirt. He would take out the whole line by himself.
No doubt.
Oh, man. Hey,
I don't look like resort now.
Man, again, you got the call, balling out. Congratulations on a great week. Best of luck the rest of the season. Thanks for coming on here, talking preps with us this week.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks, that was a great group of young men who balled out this week. Langston, we're going to send it back to you.
All right, guys, we're back. It's time to talk about some games coming up this week. Guru, clear your throat. It's about time for you to tell us about the big games coming up in the state.
All right, we're starting to get just a little bit of a nip in the air, not a whole lot, but it's starting to feel a little bit more like fall this week. So it's going to start feeling a lot more heated up as far as some big-time action on the gridiron. So let's talk about some games outside of the Charlotte area that are big around the state this week. We're going to start down in Cumberland County. Jack Britt taking the trip over to Terry Sanford. Terry Sanford, of course, the old Fayetteville High School, the Bulldogs. Man, that's a great program. This is going to be a pretty good game. I was down there to Jack Britt a couple weeks ago when they played Hoggard, and then they had that enormous win over Cape Fear last week. I think this Jack Britt team is a team that you need to kind of keep an eye on. I think they're a really good team. Of course, on the flip side, Terry Sanford is my number one team in the 6A ranks. Two really good quarterbacks, two just really sneaky good quarterbacks. Gavin Stokes, the quarterback, and Jack Britt. That young man's electric. He can just light the ball up. He can move. He can score aerial or on the feet from any place on the field. He's just worth the price of the ticket. And then, of course, you got Jacob Moore, who I gave away a Player of the Week ball a couple weeks ago to for Terry Sanford. Two really good quarterbacks. Moving on, let's go down to the eastern part of the state, the Coastal Plains, Cleveland, traveling to New Bern. That's going to be a big game. New Bern's, one of my top teams in the 7A, and, of course, Cleveland's right there as well. Year after year, it seems like we just think, oh, man, all these other teams, Clayton and, other teams going to be the team to beat in the East. And what happens? Cleveland wins every year. They just seem to beat all the teams that you think are going to be the top dogs. And this could be another example of that. They played 2 years ago, and Cleveland won that game 56-13. New Bern, they got a great dual threat quarterback in Terrence McCormick. And then, of course, Cleveland's got a quarterback that we're going to focus on tonight with some Player of the Week awards in Owen Holbert. So that's going to be a great game. And then I want to follow up with two teams that have already been Reidsville this year. In fact, Reagan snapped about a 20-some-year scoring streak for Reidsville this past Friday night. Reagan High School, they're about as good a team as I've seen coming from the Triad. I think that they're almost on that echelon with the Grimsley in the 7A. I'm not sure. We'll find out, hopefully a big game coming up in November if we can get these two guys going at it. But Reagan's got a quarterback that I really like to get, that senior quarterback, and Jacob Smith, I'm sorry. And then the running back, John Evans. I got my names mixed up in the head. And then Northern Guilford, they're a power team as well. Coach Westberg, Eric Westberg, does a great job. He's got that senior running back, and Amari Akers does a great job. Those are three games that I've got my eyes on, and I just can't wait for Friday. Is it Friday yet, guys?
It's always almost Friday. He does have top of the dome, which is really scary. Cam, you got a lot to live up to. It's time for your victory.
All right, well, I guess I'll go ahead, and I'm going to actually start from the bottom up, looking at that Marvin Ridge and Ashbrook game. Ashbrook coming off a big-time win over Northwest Comparison, a game that was a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be. Those two teams have some recent history in the playoffs, but it was a really good game. Moving up to Mount Pleasant and South Point. With South Point, man, they run their offense and they run it well. I don't know if their quarterback, Patrick Blee, throws the ball 10 times a game. They run that triple option. He can hurt you on the ground and through the air if he absolutely needs to. But I'll be interested to see if 2-1 Mount Pleasant can keep it close there with the Red Raiders. And I'm sure everybody wants to chip in on this one. Looking at Weddington and Crest. Man, Crest, they're one of the highest flying offenses in the state. They've got two receivers, Michael Edwards and Namaje Thompson, both averaging over 100 yards per game receiving. That's a tough test for a Weddington defense, but Weddington coming off a big win over Monroe. Looked a lot more like the Weddington we're accustomed to seeing last week. Chris, I want to get your thoughts on this game. Do you think Weddington, or do you think Crest will keep it close, or do you think this game will be one-sided?
Well, no, I think this is one of the best games in the state. I may consider going to that one. It's so big. I think these two guys are going to go toe-to-toe. It would be hard for me to predict a winner today, which is one of the reasons why I may head over there, because it's going to be such a good game.
I might put that on the pick'em list. Sam, I've been hearing that the Crest quarterback might be one of the best quarterbacks in the state. You know how hard it is to win in Cleveland County. What do you think about this game with Weddington?
Yes, it's got a huge matchup. You got the Weddington front seven going against the high-powered offensive skill guys. Are they going to have enough time to get the ball to the skill guys? That's the kind of the big matchup I would look for in this game. Is the quarterback going to have time to take a real three-step drop from the gun? He might have to rocker step. He might have to be able to get things out quicker and see what they can do in space. Love to see how the game plan works out for him. if you made me pick one right now, it's hard to go against Andy Capone just because of his record overall.
I might have to add this one to the pick'em this week. That's an interesting number of games. I do want to talk about some Mecklenburg County games. And anytime I talk about Independence, we got to ask Mr. Hales about his favorite team. Tell me about Lake Norman Independence. This is about two of the best quarterbacks in the region.
Yeah, for sure. I talked about Caden Kraft. I got a chance to see him a couple of times last year in person. And then, of course, I've known the street kid for some time that's over at Independence. And, knowing DJ and how he prepares his quarterbacks, it should be a real fun, real fun night for the receivers, for the quarterbacks. DBs, I definitely may not have such a great time Friday night, though. But no, I know Independence, they got big plans for this year. And, maybe not started off exactly the way they wanted, but, got a big win last week. And I'm just so incredibly happy for them that they got a big win. And but no, this should be
nobody here believing that.
I don't buy it one for one bit.
I think we're going to see that on Twitter this week. What do you think, guys?
On Twitter. DJ is very petty. We're going to get out to this week.
Oh, DJ hasn't found a poll he hasn't complained about yet, so put it in a poll. We'll draw him out.
Draw him out. That is the greatest comment ever.
I love it, man. Stay off my lawn.
People wonder why the views are up on this show. It's strictly because Brian Hales, one-timers.
Yeah, views are going nuts on this show. They're not just up; they're going nuts. The big thing to watch in this game, Jaden Jones did not play last week for Independence. I don't know what his injury is or what the situation is, but that's a big loss for them not having him. So we have to see what happens with that. We're going to go, Sam, Mooresville playing your buddy over at Huff. What do you think about this game?
And
Baker came on the show Friday with Dale and those guys. He said, "Did my buddy Sam win down in Rock Hill?" He already knew the answer.
Oh, he said that.
He said, "My buddy Sam went down in Rock Hill." So I'm gonna give you a shot.
I'll go ahead and do my final say right now because this is what it is.
No, you got to have something else.
Coming. Nah, forged and fire, man, and that's what you're trying to get done. I'd rather be 13-2 at the end and have a championship than be 14-1 and be crying at the end of the year. But
let's go.
So
Watch fire.
I'm just saying in general, y'all are trying to put it in there together. Mooresville at Huff.
No, you said 14-1. I knew what the one is.
Exactly. You won.
You're 1-2 right now, so I know what 13-2.
Yeah. Well, that's. Last year we were 13-2. That's what I'm saying. And
that's not what you were saying. But go ahead.
Whatever you want. Go ahead. It don't matter. We got to win a flipping game to even.
Tell me about this game, Mooresville and Huff. What's going to happen?
Yeah. Mooresville is gonna, because they play on a tough schedule. Mooresville is going to be something to look forward to when you get into the playoffs because they're going to be battle tested. They're in the fire too right now.
Yeah. And
they got a new coordinator and Stevie Williams, who I think he's one of the best there is. Won multiple state championships, obviously not at Huff, but other places.
Right.
And
obviously really not at Huff. What? Wow.
What are y'all talking about?
That's 4 things this week.
All right, never mind. All right, moving on.
No. Keep going. I love it. Keep going.
All right. So
ratings.
I don't think they can compete with Huff right now. I think it'll be a good game early, but I think Huff will pull away. But I think Mooresville playing the schedule will be a team to be reckoned with when it gets to playoff time because of their tough schedule. I really do.
Yeah. Is Mooresville 7A, 8A? I have no idea.
7A.
7A, okay.
Yeah.
All right, Gary, I couldn't find you a holler game this week, but I got a semi-holler game. Myers Park undefeated going to play Mallard Creek. Mallard Creek coming off a tough loss at Grayson. Grayson is one of the best teams in the country, and Mallard Creek's quarterback still wasn't playing. What do you think about this game?
I'm intrigued. I think this will be the one that I go see. I saw Myers Park against Robinson, and I was really impressed with their front seven on defense. Yeah. I mean, those guys get after it. They remind me a lot of how Mallard Creek used to look up front. The whole thing we've talked under the entire Tinsley regime at Mallard Creek is offensive consistency.
Right.
Play as great a defense as anybody in the state. I mean, they're top notch on defense, but sometimes their defense has to play too much because their offense is always hit and miss.
Right.
And you don't know which offense is going to show up at Mount Creek.
Well, the word we were hearing, they were going to be good offensive this year, but then the quarterback, Perry Justice, goes
They
down.
started out, very well, and the quarterback got hurt. And, the last 2 games, they've struggled to score.
Yeah.
And so, I'm sure they're going to try to keep it close and try to win it in the fourth quarter. But the way Myers Park is playing, they're gaining more and more confidence. And eventually that Mallard Creek offense is going to have to step up and complement the Mallard Creek defense, because the defense can't play the whole game. And so this is a good test for both of them, because they may meet again somewhere down the line in the playoffs, with both of them being in 8A competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam is smiling. Palisades and Chambersdale, I thought this was going to be a matchup of unbeatens. You at the Palisades game when Clover came back late and beat Palisades. Chambers is off to a really good start. This is probably the toughest opponent they played in the run. What do you think about this game?
So I thought Palisades, for the most part, played very well Friday night, but there were a couple of areas that they did not. One was in point after conversion. They were 1 for 3.
Yeah,
that's why the game didn't end in a tie. I think that was pretty critical, and they made a couple of I think bad player decisions. The Clover's first score was based off of a kid fielding a punt, which wasn't a bad idea, but he was inside the 10 and his first steps were back towards the goal line, and he got the ball knocked out of his hand, and Clover gets a score. So those are things that are potentially correctable, and I think that this game, personally, I think that this game has the potential to be a very, very good ball game, just like I thought the Clover Palisades game would be a very big ball game.
Mm-hmm. You want to give people a preview of who you're going to pick in the paper?
Oh gosh, is it on the pick'em?
Oh, it will be.
I don't know. I'm still pretty high on Palisades. When you see this team, they look to be a better team than they were last year as far as physically. They have they have bigger players, faster players.
Yeah.
They look like a better team, but they did make a few mistakes, and I'm going to say that I think the coaches may have in game made some changes in their attack against the Clover defense that they didn't pick with what was working. So I'm probably going to pick Palisades.
Okay. Do you guys believe in the if this then that? I mean, Chambers beat Clover at Clover. Clover beat Palisades at Palisades. Cam, do you aspire to that?
Oh, I do. That's how you should give out banners, but no, I won't go down that rabbit hole. You have to factor in common opponents a little bit. I'm not saying that be the end all be all factor, but when you're breaking down teams and you look at common opponents and see this team beat this team by a certain amount, every team's different, and I understand that, but it has to factor into decision making when it comes to things like pick'ems. Look, people on ESPN, when they break down games for the NFL or the NBA, they talk about how they fared against common opponents. So it's something that's universally used to break down games. And
so you're saying Chambers is going to win because Chambers beat Clover and Palisades lost to Clover?
Well, look, Chambers beat Clover by a point and Palisades lost to him by 2 points. I think it's going to be a close game. Home field advantage is going to be at Chambers, and I know the Chambers cheerleaders, the fans, they get pretty raucous, but at the same time, if our good friend Alex Bass was on the show, he would say that home field advantage isn't a thing. So I think it's going to be a close game, but I would pick Chambers.
Let me ask the coaches a question here.
Go ahead.
So the two coaches, my view on the common opponent thing is simply I might look at what I can do that the common opponent had a hard time defending as well. Because in the end, is it not how you match up against your current opponent, where your strengths are, where their weaknesses are? And maybe a common opponent helps show that, but doesn't necessarily guide how you're going to play against them.
No, I think, and I'll go first with this one. It has no bearing when it comes to your game plan. Like, hey, Team X only scores so many points against Team Y. We better do something a little different. So, no, it doesn't have any bearing on game planning. Now, the part you're talking about is, are there things that cause problems that, this common opponent may have done that cause problems either offensively or defensively? And then not just that, do we have something in our offense or defense or kicking game that is similar to that we can apply? Like, we may see a team run the wishbone against somebody and they're running up and down the field on them. I'm not putting the wishbone in 3 days because it worked for somebody else. But so you do try to find some commonalities. Like, I know for me as an offensive coordinator, I'm looking at formations and what formations give me certain coverages, what down and distance give me certain blitzes. But even to that, like, you may see a common opponent that may not have a very good offensive line. So they're just blitzing on every play knowing that they really can't defend themselves. So you may not get the exact same thing.
Brian?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a common opponent and maybe someone beat someone by 40 points and the other one lost by 1 point, I mean, obviously you can go with that team that beat them by 40 points. But like you said, this game was very close. One lost by a point. The other one won by a few points. It's going to come down to matchups. Like Hale says, when you watch film, you're going to look at certain things. All right, when they got a tight end over here, this is how they line up. It's more about consistencies. It's like a boxing match. If a boxing match, like every time the guy throws a jab, he does this. Do they have commonality of something that you can take advantage of within the system that you have? Now, Hells could put in the wishbone in 3 days. He's a heck of a coach, so don't let him fool you because he might put it in this week. Don't let him lie to you about that. He will do something.
I might wait a month.
He just run the veer.
That would be brutal. That would be brutal. But, yeah, when you're watching opponents, I haven't seen Chambers. I've seen Palisades in the scrimmage.
Yeah.
I think that they're very physical, like you said, in certain areas. It's going to come down to their trigger man making plays for them. And I know that he's new there, and if he's able to make plays, then they could probably have an advantage winning that game. If he struggles with pressure, because they're going to be able to play man coverage, they're going to be able to do some things and load the box. You're going to have to get creative doing rub routes or doing some type of matchups where you get a good matchup. I think this is definitely one of the best games to see this week, no doubt, for sure.
I think it's
I think we have to applaud the high school coaches in our area for playing a very, very tough non-schedule. I mean, we got all jacked up about college football in week 1, and then week 2 came along, and it was good all day.
Well, it didn't happen for Clemson. Thought they were having a week 2. They didn't quite.
Yeah, and I mean, it was like you're looking at TV yesterday. It's like I can't find a decent game anywhere. Yeah. And every Friday night has been a loaded schedule in this area. So kudos to all the coaches who've challenged themselves with a tough non-conference schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Chambers people are going to be pumped up. This is their best start in 5 years. This is their first big game, under Captain Mullen. I think they're going to come out like the old Chambers people did. Should be a great game. And up in South Charlotte, Chris, another big game. South Mac playing really good ball. Ardrey Kell got a big win against Marvin Ridge Friday that I picked against and didn't turn out so well. What do you think about this game?
I really like Ardrey Kell. Ardrey Kell is, in my opinion, an under-the-radar team. They're more athletic than they've been in previous years. They're a lot faster and agile than I feel like they've been. I had a chance to see them Friday night against Marvin Ridge. By the way, I was the only one that picked Ardrey Kell. I know that South Meck is a great story. I love Coach Joe Evans. In fact, he was the head coach at AK a few years ago.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what, that AK team's really good. I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to beat them, but I like my chances going with the Knights.
No, AK is going to be really good. Well, guys, we had a chance before we started the show to spend a little time with Darryl Brown, who's the head coach at Grimsley High School. Sam knows him well, obviously. Coach Hale knows him. You know him. I didn't say anything about week 1. I said you know him. I just said you know him. You're being sensitive right now, Sid.
Y'all, I tell you what, 1 or 2, I come here like a punching bag. Y'all just,
all I said was you know the man. That's all I said.
That's all good. That's all right. I'm just. It's a negotiation year, so I'm calculating.
I laughed a little.
He wants a bigger contract. He's fighting for his contract. But we had Coach Brown. He's also the president of North Carolina Football Coach Association. So we had him on. We're going to run that right now. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Scott Fowler, sports columnist at the Charlotte Observer. I have been here 31 years, but you know what I never have had before here? A newsletter. I've got one now. It's free. I'd love you to sign up for it and get my take. Every single time I have a column, you'll see it first. Panthers, Hornets, college sports, high school sports, whatever controversies going on. Sign up for my free newsletter and you will be able to get my column every single time earlier than anyone else.
Okay, guys, we're back. We got a special guest, Chris. We got one of the very best coaches in North Carolina, Darryl Brown, who's also the president of North Carolina Football Coaches Association. So we get to ask him about some statewide stuff as well as about his team. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing fine. Appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, man. Well, you know, the question everybody wants to know, you got the best player in the country, but he hadn't played in the past 2 weeks. What can you tell us about Faison?
Yeah, well, I mean, he injured his thumb in the next to last play of the game against West Charlotte down there in Bank of America. And, you know, at the time we weren't really quite sure, but he's had some work done on it just to kind of repair some ligaments, and he's going to be out for a few weeks. We really don't have a timetable.
Yeah.
It's just kind of more or less going to see how he recovers and then kind of how he's able to go from there. But as soon as somebody gives me the okay that he can play, he's playing.
You guys are playing pretty well without him. You got a freshman out there doing really well. Tell us about Brody Lowe.
Yeah, so Brody's played really well. He's a really accurate passer. He's very mature for his age. He's played really poised and composed the last 2 weeks in 2 really tough games against West Forsyth at their place, then our home opener against East Forsyth. But I tell you, our offense, the guys that we have on that side of the ball, which we have several seniors, they have really rallied around him and they've elevated their game. Some of our receivers, our offensive line have gave him plenty of time the last couple of weeks. We've got a senior running back that's played well. So we've asked them guys to kind of rally around him, and they've done a great job of doing that and making plays for him.
Absolutely. Chris?
And Coach, I was going to ask you, you know, you mentioned the 3 games leading into your conference slate. Obviously, we were at that West Charlotte game down to the wire, one of the best high school games I've ever seen. You followed up in week 2 with a freshman quarterback at West Forsyth, and then you go over to play against East Forsyth, Coach Todd Willard, who brings another unique challenge. And I'm looking at that game, and since about 2016 when you got there, you've played East Forsyth about 10 or 11 times. I mean, you have gone back and forth, some playoff games. Tell me just what that gauntlet of tough teams does for you going into the conference slate, because you get a little bit of lull in competition before maybe you guys ramp up for the playoffs. But I feel like that positions you guys well for just being game ready come playoff time.
Yeah, exactly, Chris. I mean, we scheduled them 3 games for a reason. Obviously, we weren't sure about, you know, the first one we got selected to play in that game against West Charlotte. So we're very fortunate about that. But, you know, we scheduled West and East, 2 powerhouses, you know, here in the Triad, and always playing. You know, if you go to West Forsyth, that's a really tough environment over there. But those 3 games, we wanted to find out like who we were. You know, I wanted some adversity. I wanted it to be hard on our team. I wanted it to be challenging. I think it makes our players elevate. You know, just their focus, their mentality. Our coaches have to do a good job preparing every week. We got to make sure that we're ready to go, because if we're not, you know, we're going to get beat. And it's just been good for our entire program. And, you know, to come out of these 3 games, 3-0, we got some guys banged up. So the week off this week's really good for us. But we just wanted to find out, you know, kind of who we were early on and what we need to work on and some of the things that we were pretty good at. And I think those 3 games really kind of helped us find out a lot about ourselves moving into conference play.
Coach, one of the topics we've discussed on a weekly basis here at Talking Preps is coaching pay. And being that you're the president of the Coaches Association, is there any suggestions that coaches have given you that the state or local LEAs can do to raise pay?
No, I mean, I've just heard a lot of complaints like you guys have. I think it really is just, you know, a lot's determined by the local LEAs for sure. And every county is a little bit different. I got some I went to college at Gardner Webb, and I've got some friends down that way in Cleveland County, and one of my good buddies is the county AD down there. And I've talked to him about, how they supplement coaches and how many months pay they get. I think a big thing would just be to make coaches 12-month employees. That's the biggest thing. I mean, and I know a couple, you have some districts that do that, but it needs to be done statewide. And, adding 2 more months pay on to every head coach who's there every day in the summer anyway.
Coach, I don't know if you can hear us, but we lost you.
He had some good ideas too.
He did.
Yeah, he had some real good ideas about the 12 months.
Am I there? Y'all lose me a second?
We got you.
Got you now. Go ahead.
I just think, like I said, the 12-month pay is the big thing for the coaches. Adding 2 more months pay onto their salary. They're there every day in the summer. And if the state and the local LEAs would find ways to do that, we have so much talent in the state of North Carolina.
Yes.
And it's a shame when you see coaches leave the state for other states. And the only thing we're doing is we're hurting the kids. You can't blame coaches for leaving, but if we cared about the young people in our high schools and giving them the best, best resources so that they could get better, you want to keep these coaches. You don't want these coaches to leave. And I hate it when I see guys leave, but I understand it. And then you get to a point like me. This is year 26 for me in the system and year 21 as a head coach. And now, my salary, I can work 15, 20 more years and I'm not making any more money. I am what it is. I'm done. And you get to a point where you got to make decisions for your family, what's best for them and that kind of stuff. And obviously I'd love to stay where I'm at. I love Grimsley High School and I love the community I live in. But at some point in time, you got to kind of think, man, what's best for my daughter, my son, my wife, and I just wish, you get to year 30, they almost shove you out the door instead of trying to find ways to keep these guys around and really give them incentive to stay. So there's a lot of issues. I really wish the state would address it, but I don't know where we're headed in that direction.
Coach,
I've got a question along that line of the state. Is there anything that can be done, do you think, of a presentation to the state and to our legislature about addressing this? And, one of the things that I always think about and comment about is that athletics bleeds over into the student body. And, successful athletics makes a more successful student body. It makes kids may be more interested in wanting to come to school, to be around the players. And so I think there's kind of a breeding ground there for improving education. So have you given any thought to how that might be able to be presented to the state to have some kind of additional stipend maybe to cover for coaches?
Yeah, that's we've kind of talked about that. And I think that's something now we're all trying to kind of rally around and try to figure out the best way to kind of present something to them. I know that's something that's been brought up and it's something our association's talked about as well. So I think that's kind of where we're headed. And that's definitely what needs to be done. But to your point, 100%, like if your athletic program at your high school is successful, then your school more times than not is very successful academically, the arts, whatever it may be. And I've seen Grimsley High School, the last 10 years, like when myself and our staff got to Grimsley, the football program was not very good. And we've been fortunate enough to have some success the last few years, but I've watched it bleed over into every area of our high school. All of our athletic programs have become better. Our student enrollment continues to go up every year because people want their kids going to school at Grimsley. Our academics is off the charts. Our arts is phenomenal. And, it's just a lot of good things happening. But I agree with you. I mean, the athletic program in every school is the heartbeat. And I really think it starts with your football program. If your football program's having successful season or Friday nights are good and you're bringing in people into the stadium, it just starts the school year off right and gets everybody kind of in the right mindset, and it kind of goes through the entire year. So it all goes, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, I kind of lost hearing you, but you made a great point about coming into the stadium. And I believe this also helps a community. And I think those things could be presented to the state as a selling point to paying you guys more.
Yeah, I agree. And it's something that myself and a few other guys have kind of been talking and working on. So hopefully that's something we're able to kind of get done. I'd really, it probably won't benefit me so much because I'm kind of on the back end, but I'd love to see. I've got some good young coaches on my staff, and I know there's a lot of good young coaches throughout the state. I'd like to get something changed for those guys for sure.
Yeah, Coach Griner has something to holler at you about.
Yeah, I thought you're right on the point. And, Grimsley High School has done a great job. That's one of the reasons why we probably don't want to go play there with the flickering lights and they got all cool things and stuff. But it's an experience. And I want to highlight surrounding states. Coach Hells and I both played in South Carolina. And it's an experience. Like, that stadium is different. Like, people want to come to this. Oh, can we feel the stadium? Of course you can, because it's just like a nice restaurant. If you have certain things that are nice, people are attracted to it. If the program's playing well, people are coming to it. So if you have a stadium that's real small and rinky-dink, it's not kind of an experience. If you invest in all these programs and the aspect of the stadiums, invest in the football programs, I'm telling you, those stadiums will fill up. Why is Texas so big and all that? Well, everybody goes to the games because it's an experience.
Yeah.
You can have all types of things, food trucks there, experience. It'll keep growing. It'll benefit everybody. I don't know why we're so far behind or scared to do it. I don't understand.
To Sam's point, I every year I try to make a point to get down to like a Shrine Bowl practice, and every once in a while I'll have a guy, playing in the game or whatever. But you go down just to Spartanburg County, which is 2.5 hour drive from Greensboro, North Carolina, and that county is a lot like Guilford County in a lot of ways. Not terribly different as far as demographics and things of that nature. And you just look around at all the high schools down there and how they pay the coaches and what their facilities are like. And I'm like, I come back here and I said, I want to put our superintendent and all the people in our county office in my Tahoe and drive them down there and say, why can't it be like this here in Guilford County? It really shouldn't be any different. So it's just a matter of really, getting several people on board and getting people getting their attention, and hopefully we can get something done soon.
Yeah.
That's great.
We really figured out how to use that penny sales tax to build some nice schools.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, but before we let you go, I want to add, well, actually, we're going to put you on hold for a minute, but before we put you on hold for a minute, because you got to take on Sam and our little game show coming up. But we talked about the Charlotte 49ers coming up and the relationships they're building with high school coaches. How are the 49ers building relationships in Greensboro? How has it been, if at all?
No, those guys have been awesome. So as soon as they got in, we saw 2 or 3 coaches right away from UNC Charlotte, and they recruited a couple of our offensive linemen, and then our kind of our two-way guy, Caden Cato, that plays some secondary safety in corner for us and also plays wide receiver. He committed to UNC Charlotte in May, and so we actually he was at the game last night along with 4 other of our guys that were down there on an official visit. So they've been awesome.
Has it been better than previous staffs? About the same, or?
It's been a lot better.
A lot better. Okay. Well, there you have it from the Darrell Brown, the president of the Coach Association. We'll have you back later on in the show. Coach, take on Mr. Griner in the game show.
Let's do it.
All right, guys, we're back. That was a pretty interesting interview with Coach Brown. We're going to have him back to take on Coach Griner in the game show. And before we get to that, Cam, who did you hang out with in Cam on the Streets this week?
I actually went over and visited Sam, talked with his quarterback, Jamori Nichols, who apparently can. Well, I'm not going to spoil the video. I'll let y'all get a good laugh in, but it was a funny interview. I had to refrain from chuckling, but great kid, great quarterback. He has really come on strong this year, despite the 1-2 record. I think the Lions are going to be a force as long as he can stay healthy.
Sam, tell us about this quarterback. What do you think about Jamori Nichols? I know you were pushing him for Mr. Football potentially early.
Yeah, I was hoping he had a flu game. He had a flu Friday, and I was hoping he had like the Michael Jordan flu game, but we didn't have that great of a game offensively. But he is special. He's even comparing him to my own son, he has leadership qualities close to my son, Brahim Murphy, and but he's the best quarterback I've ever been around. Being able to run, throws the ball with great precision. His accuracy is top notch. He rarely throws interceptions. I think he might have 4 interceptions in his career. So he does everything you would want as a coach. He's a phenomenal person, great leader. He's one of our captains. You know, keep praying that he's taking some true height or whatever, and so he gets to be 6'1", 6'2", and then he can write his own ticket for sure.
Absolutely. Well, Cam, we're going to run this, but now that you've been to West Charlotte, you got to go to Butler and be on the street at Butler. What's that running back with 3 names you got, Coach, over there?
Damarian Thomas Wright.
Yeah, I need on the street with Damarian Thomas Wright.
I might head to Butler this week. They got a good one.
All
Guys,
right.
I'm telling you, that kid's got a chance to be the best running back that's ever come through Butler High School.
Wow.
There we go, Cam. Cam, we need him on the
saying
street
something.
next week. Cam on the street with Damarian next week. But right now, here's Cam on the street with West Charlotte's quarterback.
All right, Cam back on the streets here with Jamori Nichols, quarterback 1 for the Dub Sea Lions. Jamori, what's your go-to meal after a football game?
Cookout, chicken strip tray, seasoned fries, honey mustard wrap, and lemonade.
Oh, I hear that. What do you dip the chicken strips in?
Honey mustard.
Honey mustard. All right. Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan. I wear Jordans.
You wear Jordans? All right. What's your go-to music before a game to hype you up?
Probably some NBA Youngboy for sure.
I hear you. Who would win in a board drill? You or Coach Griner?
Oh, me for sure. Yes.
You're real?
Yeah, Brian's a
Brian
little
Brown's
guy.
big, nice big boy.
I'm a little guy.
All right.
This is full
Yeah,
cap.
who would win in a race if you had your legs tied together? You think he could win?
Oh, me.
You would win with your legs tied, having to hop?
Mentally.
I hear that. All right, that's been Cam on the Streets here with Jamori Nichols.
Well, if you want to get with Cam on the street, you can hit Cam up on his Twitter. Oh, that's the wrong person. Hit Cam up on his Twitter right there, Cam Will Sports on Twitter. Next week we got I'm sorry, Coach. Tell me my man's name again. Damarian
Thomas Wright.
Damarian Thomas Wright. Cam, we got to get him next week. But then after that, you can be on Cam on the street and have a little fun with Cam. Okay, so right now we're going to go to the game show and see if Coach Griner, Coach Hales can beat Coach Brown. Then we'll come back after that with Chris and Coach versus Coach.
Brother, I'm not MJ, just Coach Griner, but I'm the GOAT of the game show.
We got to update that picture.
That intro.
That intro is pretty bad, man.
That's like a high school yearbook picture.
You want a new intro? All right, well, Coach Brown beat Coach Griner head-to-head. Coach Brown did not play Coach Hales this year, but we'll see what happens in the quasi-rematch. Dale, it's on you.
Okay, guys. This one, hopefully every one of you can get. It's not a random rap question, Sam.
No.
Which quarterback holds the record for most passing yards in a national championship game? You got A, Joe Burrow, B, Bryce Young, C, Deshaun Watson, and D, Michael Penix.
Coach Brown, it's on you, sir.
I'm going to go A, Burrow.
A, Burrow. Sam, what you got?
Yeah, I like A as well.
All right, Hales?
I'm going to go Michael Penix.
Hales, you always pick A, bro. The answer's A.
He went against his own judgment.
You went against
Hales told me to pick A.
Well, everybody else was going A. I wanted to be a little bit different.
All right, Gary, here we go.
The Carolina Panthers have been to the playoffs 8 times in their history. When was the most recent? A, 2017, B, 2015, C, 2008, D, 2014.
Hales on you, sir.
All right, fine. I'm going to go back to A.
Going back to A. Samuel.
I'm going to go B, 2015.
2015. Coach Brown, what you got?
I'm going A.
A is the correct answer.
Wow.
So
Go, Coach, I got you on game, man.
They lost to the Cowboys, I think, didn't they, at home or something?
Yep. Coach Brown is up by 1 as we go to question 3.
boy.
Dale's on you.
Okay, and I think to that last question, forever would have also been a good answer.
Here's your rap question, guys. Here's your rap question.
Okay, here we go. This 2025 Grammy Award-winning rap artist won for Best Rap Album, Alligator Bites Never Heal. Who is the artist? Thankfully, I think I can pronounce everybody's names. A, Kendrick Lamar, B, Drake, C, Cardi B, and I think this is it Dochi?
Doshi, yeah.
Doshi, right. D. Dochi.
Samuel, you're up first.
I would be first on this one. I don't have a clue. I'm gonna go D.
All right. It's Hales, you're next.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna go A.
A. Coach Brown.
I'll say B.
B. B is in boy.
Yes.
The answer is D. Sam gets it correct. Sam pulls in the tie with Coach Brown as we go to question 4. Gary, it's on you.
I wouldn't have known the answer either.
The Carolina Panthers have had several former Tennessee Volunteer QBs sign with the team. Name one here who did not. A. Herndon Hooker. B. Chris Winkie. C. Casey Carlson. And D. Tyler Bray.
Coach Brown, it's on you, sir.
He said Tennessee Volunteer quarterback.
Tennessee Volunteer quarterback.
Yeah, B. Chris Winkie.
All right. That was a very confident answer. Sam,
You said the Carolina Panthers have had several former Tennessee Vols quarterbacks sign with the team. Name one here who did not.
Correct.
So they did not play for the Panthers, is what you're saying.
Time with the Panthers, correct.
Oh, I thought you meant that.
Oh, no. Don't change that, Brown. I'm going to go A. Hooker.
All right. Well, you got Hills.
Yeah, I think it's A also, but I'm also that Chris Winkie can't be on that list.
He confused me when he said I was thinking it wasn't Tennessee Volunteer quarterback.
Well, the good news is you all got the question right. So Sam and Coach Brown are at 3, Hales is at 2 as we go to the last question.
Whoa. What was the answer?
The answer was anybody but Bray and Clausen did not.
Chris Winkie.
What?
Chris Winkie signed.
Chris Winkie never played for Tennessee.
Well,
right.
They still
was Florida State guy.
Brown being the C. I'm telling you, man, I'm done
I
playing.
didn't get the question. You all get credit for the answer.
No, you don't. Why are you keeping a minute? See, this is bullcrap. Penalty on the game.
Penalty on the game.
Penalty on the game.
All right, then, last question.
I like
Overtime.
multiple choice questions where half the answers are correct. Let's get more of these.
Go ahead.
Goodness. All right. Which team here was never a member of the Southeastern Conference? Georgia Tech, A. B. South Carolina. C. Texas Christian. D. Sewanee.
It is on Coach Hales. No pulling out your phone, Coach Hales.
I lost connection for a second. I think it's C, TCU.
All right, Samuel.
Yeah, I'm going to go C as well.
Coach Brown.
C.
Which one?
Texas Christian. C.
Texas Christian. You guys all got it right. So Sam and Coach Brown tied. I thought for sure you guys would say Sewanee.
No, it's too obvious not to say it. It's like it has to be there.
Sewanee actually joined in the 20s or the 30s.
That would have been a long time ago. Yeah.
And then they dropped out because they didn't meet their religious values, so they dropped out. But Coach Brown, thanks for coming on. You got a tie.
I retained my title. I needed.
You retain your title. A tie goes to the champ. You retain your title.
Y'all ready?
Unbelievable.
Do it.
All right, here we are, gentlemen. Going into week 4. It's time to rumble. Let's lock the door.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to another edition
All right, guys, this ought to be a good one tonight. So let's go ahead and get started. I know the Coach Grinder is going to defer to the second half. So, Gary, this one's going to be for you first. This one's one that's big for me. I've been a critic of these 7 o'clock games since they started 20-some years ago. But with the late arriving crowds becoming a thing, should CMS start to move games back to 7:30 instead of 7? Gary, you're up.
Yes. And my 2 reasons for moving it back to 7:30 is it's hard to get more than 5 miles in Charlotte on Friday during rush hour without getting stuck in traffic. I don't care which direction you're going, whether you're going north, south, east, or west. it's just madhouse traffic in Charlotte on a Friday afternoon. And so it hurts parents as well as fans trying to get to the game. 2 weeks ago, when I went to see Independence Huff game, the Huff crowd didn't arrive until the second quarter almost. And then on top of it, when the people do get to the game, they have to go through the security lines, and that takes time. And so, and which is fine. We have no gripes about security because that's why it's there. That's why we're playing at 7:00. Because 20 years ago, a kid got killed after a game, and we thought that the solution was to move the games up earlier. But if trouble is going to happen, it doesn't have anything to do with the time. It's going to happen. We don't want it to happen, but I think 7:30, especially with these new conferences, where people are not used to going to these new schools, and some schools have to go to different counties, we have to move it back. Cabarrus County and some surrounding counties, they're already at 7:30. So we don't want to be the ones that are the only ones playing at 7 and have the crowd get there in the second quarter.
Coach Hales.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I fully intended on answering this question by saying no, keep them at 7:00 because of us getting out so late and trying to get home. And these kids have been here, since 6:45 in the morning. But just, listening to Gary talk and know myself how much I despise sitting in traffic, it does make sense, and especially like you said, the part about some of the new conferences, like look how far Olympic has to go for some of their games, or teams happen to come to Olympic, like traveling all the way across the county, just from a logistical purpose. And again, what's important, it's important for these kids, support for their families. We want their families to be there to be able to see them play. So yeah, I think I'd probably be okay going to 7:30.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, we already don't get paid a whole lot. We might as well work an extra hour, 30 minutes, no big deal. Pay the coaches, work longer now, yeah, no problem. Let's move it to 8:00 when it's really Friday night lights and there's no sun out. So I'm all for it. Gary talked us into it. I'd work another hour. Go for it.
Man, hey, I remember the 8:00 games vividly, and I liked it. But I understand both sides of the argument. But 7:30 in my book would be where I would go. Coach Grunner, I'm going to stay here with you on this one. How can the Charlotte 49ers win in local recruiting and start to get more top-notch kids out of Charlotte?
Win games. That's the whole key. I know that they have tough matchups. It doesn't happen overnight, but you're going to have to start winning. And people, like winners. Kids don't want to go places where, they're going to have a losing season every year. You got to win football games. So you're going to have to come up with something creative. What do you do that's different to win certain games? Army, Navy, those teams figured out things because they can't recruit like certain programs, but they can be competitive in big games, and they're always competitive because they're creative. I'm not saying you have to run triple option or something, but it's going to take something, do something, a young coordinator, a young person that whenever's doing something has to do something new that can make a difference and change the needle. You change the needle where you're doing more with less, then you're going to get more players, and then you're going to be able to compete with the bigger programs. So it's going to have to take a creative mind, in my opinion, and then players that go there when you win more games.
Gary.
We talked about it earlier. Half the kids in college now that play sports are going to hit the portal. They're going to transfer. And maybe they don't start out at Charlotte, but if the coaches at Charlotte have built that relationship with the kids, some of them are going to boomerang back. The thing that Charlotte is up against more than anything, if they do well in high school recruiting, then what they have to worry about is the big schools coming along poaching their players because they have more money, and that's where the NIL comes into play. And obviously, Charlotte doesn't have the NIL budget as some of the bigger schools in the state, and they have to, they're gonna have to figure out how they can keep those good high school recruits from leaving.
We have bigger banks though. Like we have banks, and like this is the biggest banking industry there is. So you're telling me,
yeah, but you think those bigger banks are run from alumni that go to bigger schools.
Yeah,
that might be true.
That's where the money is going. Not
they would love to be a part of something. If they see something sparking at Charlotte, they will attach their name to that for the write-off. They will do something. But how come like Appalachian, they figured it out? How come some of the schools that don't have budgets, they figure certain things out? There is a way. I like this new staff. You got to give them time. I like them, but you got to do something creative, offensively, defensively. You can't just be like, oh, we do the same thing Michigan does, and you don't have Michigan players. You got to do something creative and trust it and believe it with conviction and win these games with maybe less. And then, sorry, Hells, you go ahead. It can be done.
Oh, yeah, I think the big word is going to be consistency. So number one is you got to make sure we're a consistent priority. And when I say we, I'm talking the high school kids here in Charlotte and the high school staffs here in Charlotte and the 704 area code. There were several years, and I won't say under which regime in Charlotte because that's not fair, but there are several years I didn't know which coach from Charlotte was in charge of recruiting Butler High School. Like I just didn't see them. And, we talked in our group chat earlier about like one of everybody's favorite college coaches is Gunnar Brewer. Well, Gunnar, he developed relationships with these kids. Heck, he knew kids in our school that didn't even play football. He was just there, and he was that kind of person. So he knew when these kids were coming up, even if they didn't come to whichever school he happened to be at that time, he developed relationships with them. And that's one thing I think Charlotte really needs to lean into is develop relationships with these kids. Like we referenced already with the NIL, with the transfer portal, you may get a lot of these kids coming back and, things like that. But and now go to what you're saying, Sam, about you got to win. Ultimately winning is the ultimate cologne or perfume or whatever that brings them in. But if you're not winning consistently, now you're changing staffs. Now you have different coaches coming through, different recruiting philosophies. And that's the one thing I think that's really hurt them. And I think when you go back, they had a guy on staff that was one of the best recruiters that I ever had the opportunity to work with, and that was Phil Ratliff.
Yes.
And Phil did an unbelievable job establishing relationships with the high school coaches at Charlotte. Unfortunately, Phil passed away. And it just seemed like after that, we never had a strong connection with any coach on the staff at Charlotte. And again, I know coaches are going to come and go. Ideally it's because they're winning, they're getting other jobs, they're moving up in their profession. But at the same time, if you build a great program, a great product, ideally you replace them with somebody who's familiar with that already, and you just kind of continue with more of the same. But there has to be that consistency in terms of showing the kids and the coaches here in Charlotte that we're a priority to us, because for a long time, just didn't really feel like we are. Or we were.
Yeah. All right, guys. I'm going to stick with you, Brian, on this last question here, coach versus coach. Do high school kids view the Panthers as their team? Why or why not? And can the Panthers make the playoffs?
So the first answer is yeah, I think so, because heck, all these kids grew up, the Panthers were always there. You go back to somebody like, when Sam was growing up, you had to choose between Washington, you had to choose between Atlanta, and if you were smart, you choose Pittsburgh or whatever. But, these kids have always had the Panthers here. There's always been a history of the Panthers here. So, yeah, a lot of these kids, the Panthers are their team. I was prepared to answer yes to that second question until today happened, and now I'm not so sure. But, again, it's 1 week. Everybody just calm down. It's 1 week. But they got work to do, just like anybody else, they got work to do. But again, they have to establish what their identity is going to be and who they are, and then make sure that they're bringing in the right players to fit that identity. And otherwise you're just borrowing something from here and something from there. And it's hard to be consistent when you do that.
Gary, what do you think?
Well, if you look at it this way, the Panthers were in the Super Bowl 10 years ago. And that's the last time they were really good. So most of these high school players don't have a recollection of the Panthers ever being good. And so, kids tend to follow who's got the cool uniforms and who's got the best players, and they take it from there. And that hasn't been the case with the Panthers in the last decade. You know, they got to win. Kids don't want to associate themselves with a loser. So until they win, you know, making the playoffs would be a good start, and take it from there. But right now, you know, I'm in all three of us in a high school every day, and the kids I talk to, they don't talk about the Panthers. They don't.
Sam, last word.
So I just think that the Panthers have made a bigger splash in the last couple of years. They've done everything they can, coaching change, doing everything they can offensively. I do think people want the Panthers to win. I think 4 or 5 years ago, it was a weird scenario where they didn't even care. I think I've heard more like they didn't win today. Schematically, obviously, they're going to have to get better defensively. Like, I know that it's cool to get all these offensive splash situations going on, but you got to stop people to give yourself a chance in the NFL. You got to stop the run and be able to run the football. We do have creativity in certain aspects of passing game and what we're trying to do, but that's not how you win football games in the NFL. I think, to your question, can they make the playoffs? I would say no right now, but I'm pulling for them. I think that they've done everything they can in the community for people to like them, and people want to like them. So kudos to what they've done in the last couple of years to get the excitement.
Well, and I think, too, like one of the fastest paths to the playoffs, and the Panthers have this situation, is to win your division. Their division isn't exactly filled with a bunch of, like, the 85 Bears aren't in this division. Like the greatest show on turf is not rolling up here anytime soon. But so they have a chance, but it's
still curtain
to win the games. Yeah.
I understand we're going to be very differential to the Panthers in this question because he wants a certain playoff game to be at Bank of America Stadium in November.
I just want to get a winning record right now, to be honest with you. Like, look, we're not even on the same playing field of talking to other people getting in the playoffs that far. We're a good football team, but right now, like I said, in this last thing, Ford's in fire. What are we going to be shaped to being? Panthers in that same similar boat. Lost 2 overtimes is, it's brutal right now. Brutal.
The Panthers could start out by playing their players in the preseason so they don't get off to these slow starts,
particularly the quarterback,
year because their players haven't played in 3 weeks.
Particularly the quarterback who struggled mightily in preseason games. All right, Sam, it's time to put you in your one shot. What are your final thoughts?
I disagree with Gary right there. It's a long season. You say you play all these preseason games and all of a sudden you lose someone, then your season really is over. We're in situations right now where we got guys down and we want them to be healthy before they come back. At the end of the day, you're trying to win in the end when it matters. But, obviously you got to try to get into the playoffs. So I get it too, Gary. Final thoughts, just 1 and 2 is very tough. We're best team I've ever coached in my life. I'm talking about West Charlotte for a second. But, you got to be forged in the fire, man, like that show. You got to be able to grow from adversity, and I think we are made of that, and I'm excited about this future. I don't want to be 1 and 2, but it's tough sledding right now, but I am excited about the future. I really am. Best team I've ever coached. Still say it right now.
You've been saying it all year. All right. Well, that's a really good Talking Prep show. Love the energy, guys. Thanks for coming on. That is Coach Griner, the 2-time state championship coach at West Charlotte High School. That's Chris Hughes, the #1 voice of high school football. Gary Richmond, retired CMS coach. Chris has glasses. Dale Ross, the historian. Brian Hales, a 3-time state championship coach from Butler High School. Cam Williams, the guru in training. I am Langston, and we are Talking Preps.
I'm gonna tie Hales for us all over. I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get him there.
Oh, you said
he might go to 4. So I was
gonna say you're acting like I'm done.
No, I know you're not done.
Right. We'll see y'all next week as the conversation continues.